Hello and welcome back to OT, the podcast. We're here to talk about watches, time, and how to spend it. I'm Andy Green.
And I'm Felix Schultz.
Felix, great to be back in the studio with you.
Very nice.
We've got an exciting episode as always.
Show and tell today.
Yes.
Which is great for a podcast.
Well, we're getting better at describing things
Yeah, some of us are.
with words and voices. We've got three red boxes in front of us.
Red boxes with gold trim can only mean one brand.
But no spoilers before we get into it. What's been going on?
Well, I got a bit of an interesting press release in my emails earlier this week from a brand that we don't normally talk about. Harry Styles' favourite brand.
What does it start with? Gruber Force.
I'm not sure if Mr. Styles is familiar with the work of the Vorsies. No, Gucci.
Oh,
Gucci.
gang.
Yeah, Gucci. A watch that is being made in collaboration with, of all things, an esports team.
Of course.
Which is interesting. So it's a dive watch. It's the excellently named Gucci dive watch. It looks like a fairly standard sort of 40mm dive watch. It's got a bezel in. Oh, sorry, I should say it's for Team Fnatic, which is an esports team. I'm not overly au fait with the world of esports, but apparently they're a big deal. Their team colours, black and red on the bezel. Gucci, you know how Gucci put their sort of house emblems all over the dials, there's bees and stars and other knickknackery. So that's all over there, and then there's the Team Fnatic logo at the bottom. It's quite an interesting move. As a watch, it's pretty loud.
Yeah, so it's got rubber on the case, is it?
I don't know what the side bits are. It's certainly got a rubber strap.
It's got a rubber strap.
But it's quartz. It's £1,000, a little bit more.
Yep.
But for me, it's not so much the watch that I find interesting. I find the fact that Gucci, the biggest, luxury brand in the world, is partnering with esports, because that's going to happen more and more. If those guys are doing it now, you're going to see, I don't know, AP doing it in 10 years' time.
Well, it's probably been one of the only sporting industries that hasn't been impacted by COVID, right? One of. There can't be many that have been able to continue.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah. I mean, they do, they'll sell out stadiums.
Yeah, and it's big business.
Yeah, it's huge. So this team, I mean, it's small compared to, Super Bowl and stuff like that in terms of revenue, but these guys have been around since 2004. They picked up 19 mil in Series A funding last year.
Okay.
They're sort of increasingly professional, and they're sort of quite a global team, and they will cross all sorts of different games. So I think it's a new sort of future for, celebrities, and that we've just got to get used to it. So
cool. Well,
would you rock a watch for some, what are weird ambassadors for you?
Weird ambassadors for me. I always find it's weird, but I always find those classical musicians as quite odd, because
it's whoa, they've got the composer of the Berlin Philharmonic.
Yeah, exactly.
But they are rock stars, in
their own right.
Yeah, and people that are really into opera might have lots of cash.
Okay, Felix.
Now for the audio-visual element.
All right, I'm slowly opening these dark red boxes filled with black felty interior. Sitting on the cushion, we have a Cartier Santos-Dumont large model, yellow, gold, and steel on the leather bracelet or strap. Yeah,
it's a dark grey croc with a sort of matching slaty grey dial. This is the large, and the other two we've got are extra larges.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Well, I mean, you've got to give it context.
Yeah. So we've got three Dumonts here with us.
Santos-Dumont. Who's Dumont? Santos-Dumont.
He's the man or woman.
He's the pioneering Brazilian aviator, which is, as any Cartier promotional material involving the Santos or Santos-Dumont, always starts with, in 1908, the pioneering Brazilian aviator. I don't know if it was 1908, but this is based on the first commercially made wristwatch.
Amazing. Allegedly. So we have three. They're new to 2020. When were they? A couple of months ago they were released.
Watches and Wonders.
Online.
Or pre-release, I don't know.
And they've come to us as a little bit of a preview to have a play around with. So the large Dumont with yellow, gold, and steel is 10,400 Aussie dollars. It's lovely.
Yes. It's my favourite of the three we've got. So we've got it's the smallest, but I think I like this one because of the yellow gold bezel. I think yellow gold and Santos's in general is a great combination.
It's not super yellow.
No, and there's not a lot of gold. Like it's that thin sort of bezel. It's framed by the steel and there's screws. Or I assume they're screws. I can't actually tell from here.
And it's super comfortable on.
Yeah, you're a bit into this, and even I, with my larger wrists, I can handle the large model. The XL probably suits me a bit better. It's a bit more of a contemporary size, but
So we've got 2 XLs.
Yep. What do we got?
We've got pink, gold, and steel on a leather bracelet.
Yep, with a sort of a classic silver Cartier dial with those Roman numerals and blued hands.
Yeah, very nice blue hands that match the crown.
I'm just going to grab that over.
Yeah, slide it over.
Such a nice watch. And I think you sort of, because you hadn't seen...
No, I haven't seen this.
Have you seen the last ones, the quartz ones from last year?
Yes. Only on bracelet, though, not on the leather.
Okay. They just fit well on the wrist. Like, and we were sort of having a chat before we recorded about this. Like, on paper, there's sort of, it's a manually wound watch with a gold bezel, a simple sort of classical dial. But that doesn't translate to what they're like in real life, where they're just beautiful. Like, they fit, they're slightly curved. They're lovely.
Really lovely. And they got the quick change straps.
Yeah, so they've got the quick spring bars, not the same as the other.
No.
Not the Apple style system of the other Santos, or Quick Link or whatever it's called.
No,
But
and
they're
so
still-
the pink, gold, and steel is 11,700 Aussie dollars.
Nice.
Not a bad way to spend it, I must say. And the third one we have is the Dumont XL all steel.
All steel bezel, silver dial. What do you think of the crown?
I like it because in the images it looks like it would poke out a lot more than it actually does.
So it's that conical. I think it's a cabochon. Sometimes they're real sapphires, but I think here it's a synthetic one with that quite a row of like beading around the edge. So it's quite a pointy, baroque, decorative looking crown.
Yeah. 84.50 is the Australian price on that guy.
Not bad. I mean, that's a contender for a really solid dress. I mean, we suggested something like this for one of our matchmakers a while ago.
We did. Great choice. I mean, sub 10K.
Dress
watch. Classic appeal, timelessness. I really like it.
Manually, though. They're manual wines. So
Yes.
Some people might like an auto, but, there's options there for...
Yeah.
Not Santos-Dumont. So I think... What's different about Santos-Dumont than other Santos models? I think it's sort of a bit more slender. It's a slightly...
It's the bezel proportions, right? It's a slimmer bezel.
It's all slimmer, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas the regular Santos is a bit chunkier and a bit sportier.
Yes.
This is like the...
No, you're right. So I haven't actually seen the Dumonts. I've only seen the regular. They've seen the regular. That's why I was so surprised. But you're 100% right. And the bezel is probably what most people notice. Is it looks like it's about half the thickness.
Yep.
And width, I guess, all the way around, which makes a huge difference. So these are much more elegant, I think.
So that's worth... I think there's that... if you're not across all the different sort of Santos lines, if you go, you've tried a Santos on, I've tried my mate Santos on.
Yeah.
It might have been a Santos from the 80s. It might have been the new... They're the same, but they're all quite different.
This feels very refined. And when the images came out, like they looked really good in the images.
Yeah.
And often something looks really good in an image and it looks very different in person, and occasionally we let down, but these hold up. Like these are very, very cool in person. Like they look just as good as I was kind of hoping they would.
I think, and they feel better. That's what I always sort of take away from it.
Really nice on the wrist. All right, well.
I've got a question though before we go on to the next thing.
What's the question?
Of the three, which one would you wish to take home?
Well, the first one I tried on was the large, and I thought this feels really good on. And then I put the extra large on, and like I don't have massive wrists, but the XL feels just as good. So I'd probably do the pink gold and steel. Pink gold and steel.
I don't know if there's an XL version with yellow gold. I don't know if there is, but if there was, it would be for me. But I think I'd go the XL.
Maybe we can get matching for Christmas.
Nice.
Love it.
Yep.
Well, have you liked anything lately, Felix?
I've liked a few things actually. I've done a bit of a a sneaky double
Oh,
edition, because one of them is something that I know I will like, but I cannot actually have liked yet.
okay.
I didn't realise it existed until when I saw a trailer. It's a movie called Greyhound
Okay.
with Tom Hanks, and it is being made for and aired on Apple TV, which is nuts. Like Tom Hanks movies
Yeah, that's the
going
future.
straight to TV. It comes out at the time of recording in a couple of weeks, so I assume it'll be out by the time this goes
And you've
live.
seen it by the time this goes live.
Yeah. So I can retrospectively say I've loved it. But basically, it's a your classic World War II naval drama where he's the captain of a destroyer crossing the Atlantic in 1942, which would have been a bad time to be crossing the Atlantic. And he's with a bunch of ships, and there's a lot of German submarines around, which is like catnip for Felix.
He would have been quite young in 1942 as well.
Yeah, he's popping over. He's just got to save Private Ryan, and then he's got to get stuck on an island on the way back and meet a volleyball.
An infant. Yeah. Well, that's how it happened.
Yeah, it's all one narrative in Tom Hanks's filmography, then he's going to start a shrimp boat.
All right.
But that's my bonus one.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it. The trailer looks sick. I'm all for it.
Cool.
But the other one, I've gone with another movie. I know we can't watch Bond, but we can still watch Daniel Craig.
Love it.
And this is always a good reminder that Daniel Craig can rock a sick accent. It's a movie called Knives Out.
Okay, yes, I've seen that around. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's by Rian Johnson, who did Looper
Yes.
and Star Wars The Last Jedi, which
Cool.
maybe is less cool for the fans. He's also been on Hodinkee Radio, so he likes watches.
Oh,
But it's just it's a mystery, like it's a sort of Agatha Christie something. Yeah, like Daniel Craig comes in as a detective with a southern accent and go, "I've been hired to solve this murder." That is not a southern accent, but it's really good. It's enjoyable. Really strong ensemble cast: Toni Collette, Christopher Plummer, Jamie Lee Curtis, Chris Evans.
all right.
Big characters. It's great. Just fun.
I'm going to watch that tonight.
Yeah, it is like a Saturday night, good, entertaining,
Perfect.
movie.
All right. Well,
What about you?
mine's a novelle. It's
Whatever.
a book by an Australian author called Christian White. Came out in 2018. It's called The Nowhere Child. It's a psychological thriller.
Oh, so real happy.
No, well, that's not terrible. But it's basically about a girl who kind of a woman who finds out that she was kidnapped as a child, and then sort of goes on this like quest to find out what happened. But it's a really interesting structure to the book because it kind of alternates chapter to chapter. So it's sort of then and now.
Oh, yeah.
Which gets a little bit frustrating, but I think that's the point because it's all happening in the present. But they keep going back into the past.
You kind of want to skip a chapter and go to the next point of view, like you want to.
Yeah, you're just like, no, like I don't like what's going to happen next in the present. I don't care about like
I think that's what they call a page turner.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's a real PT, as they call it.
I don't think they do. That's public transport.
It's a thing now. Really awesome book. It's been out for a couple of years now. I think it's a bestseller in Australia and probably around the world. But
Yeah, cool.
it won a bunch of awards. It's the author's first book as well. So it's his debut novelle.
A debut.
Yeah, lives down in Mornington with a bunch of our friends.
Okay.
Lots
Like in
of
a share house.
neighbours with Carl Cox down on the peninsula.
Yeah, nice.
Really good read though. Really, it was recommended by a friend, and I jumped onto it. And
Cool.
Awesome, really impressive as a first kind of an entry into the world of books. But yeah, if you like psychological thrillers, this one's for you.
You know what else I've been reading?
What?
Emails.
If you just got one mid podcast that you have to attend
Yeah,
to.
sorry, it's just my energy bill's overdue. No, we got an email from Marcus.
Marcus, what does Marcus need our help with?
Hello. No, he didn't say it. I don't know if he has a weird European accent. Hi guys, only got onto the podcast following the Hodinkee share and gobbling it up. Just loving it.
That was lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Hodinkee.
Yeah, that was a very nice thing to do. So, but he's not just here to tell us he loves us. He wants our help. I recently sold a vintage Speedy Pro and have 5k Australian to spend. Okay, more like 6, but I know you'll round it up anyway.
Guilty.
I had intended on going for a waiting list for the 58, but due to 58, have now discovered that they virtually don't exist unless you're a good customer of an AD. So he's looking for some different choices.
Okay.
Current collection includes a vintage Amiga dress that his wife gave him on his wedding day, so I guess he's not flipping that. A Ming 1701 that he wears a lot. 70 Seiko Quartz VFA that cost as much as a Camry new and now cost a lot less. His dad's Longines that he shares with his brother, and one of the Hodinkee Swatch System 51s. He's previously had an IWC Portuguese 7-day that he found a little big, which is fair. So he's in the 35 to 40 millimeter size range. He's been thinking about buying a few affordable watches instead of one more expensive. Secondhand Nomos Club, Unimatic, Grand Seiko, Vintage Grand Seiko, Rado, Captain Cook. He's clearly very open-minded or just a little bit confused.
Okay. So key takeaways, he's Melbourne, so he's in Aussie dollars, 35 to 40 mils sporty. So I think that's probably the focus that I hear coming through, because he's got that Ming that he wears a lot, and that's pretty dressy.
Yeah, and I mean, he said sort of, so the Nomos is on the sportier side of dress, Unimatic sporty, Vintage Grand Seiko's, I mean, vintage. So, I mean, he can kind of, I think, play with the sports, but certainly let's lead that way.
Yeah, and he's not afraid of a bit of fun. Okay.
This led me to have some thoughts. What's your first watch? What's the best sort of first watch, do you think, for someone?
For this budget, or?
I mean, it shouldn't really matter about budget. Like, if you've never owned a watch before, you're not going to go buy a Jacob & Co. Astronomica. Like, that's, you know.
Well, it's fun. Well, I helped a mate, and his first ever watch was a Rolex Date 8 white gold with the green dial. And that was a really interesting first watch. And
that's a great first watch.
So if money's no issue, but I don't see how you can go wrong with something like a Tudor or a Speedy.
But I mean, but even like less brand, more style. Like, is it sort of it's probably like low-key sports, or? It's
probably sports. It's probably like, well, what about like a Seiko?
Yeah, I think
SKX.
And yeah, I think like that's a dive watch. A dive watch is a great place to start, because then you kind of go, I think if you go with something like, whereas I'd say now the perfect one watch is something like a Datejust or like a casual sports watch, but I think I would have had to get there.
And I think with something like a Seiko, like an SKX or something, you work out whether or not you like watches with that. Like, you either kind of go down the path of, you know, modding it or
changing straps and buying 4 more different versions.
Yeah, exactly. Or you'll just have it and you'll have it for 20 years and
it'll be fine.
Yeah, so you work that out.
But what you've been buying watches we've both been buying watches collectively for decades.
Oh God, that's scary, isn't it?
What would you have told or recommended to you when you were just starting out?
I would have probably have said save up $5,000 and get something a little bit more serious than spending $1,000 here, $2,000 there, and on pieces that I have but I don't wear.
Liked, or
yeah, I liked at the time, but I didn't. I hadn't thought about it long enough, or I hadn't thought that they weren't long-term pieces.
I think that's part of the experience, though. I think that's what I was saying about, like, you start on that and then you get to, you've got to evolve. Like, I think that's if you do that. You've got
you asked me what I would do with my knowledge that I have now.
Well, we're having a discussion.
Yeah, so I would use that knowledge and avoid a whole bunch of, you know, bits and pieces.
Yeah. See, I take a slightly different, because I did the same thing. I spent a lot of money, you know, some on a bunch of fairly average watches that I don't own anymore. But I don't really regret that, because it allowed me to experience lots of different things. Now I know that, you know, don't buy crappy old Boulevers that will never be serviced because you can't find the parts, and that's a valuable thing to work out.
Probably my biggest lesson is that you never regret what you buy, you regret what you sell. Either you sell it for too little, or you sell it and you didn't want to sell it. But I regret the ones I let go.
I mean, the obvious one is, like, you know, when I was not hard to get a sub for like $3,000.
Yeah.
Like, that's easy to go, back in the day.
Crystal ball, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not the point. I don't really regret the ones I sold. I've sold some lovely watches that I've appreciated in time, but that's not a way to live your life. Anyway.
Enough about us.
More about Marcus.
Marcus.
What do you got?
All right, I'll kick this off. I've got the brand new Longines Spirit. Black dial on the bracelet.
Chrono? Time only.
Time only, so time and date.
Yep, which size? Is it 40 or 42?
40 millimeters, so no 3 on the dial, just the date window.
No little cut-off 3.
No, not for me. It's 3,100 Aussie on the bracelet.
Great.
So middle of the below budget, sort of half what
Andy, below budget green.
I'm setting a new trend. So it's got that big crown, minty loom on the dial. There's a fair bit of stuff happening on the bracelet. It also comes on a leather strap, like a dark brown leather strap, which looks really, really cool from the images.
There's also, as I learned when I saw these the other week, a prestige kit.
Oh.
Which includes like a bunch of straps, like a nice looking sort of, that oxblood number 8, NATO style one. So yeah, it looks really great on a bunch of straps.
3,100. A brand like Longines has a lot of credibility.
Yep,
You've seen these pieces.
Yeah.
So I can only go off the images for now, but I think that's a pretty strong one to start off with.
Yep.
The second choice, Helios Fairwind. Blue, navy blue dial, navy blue sort of bezel.
Hang on. Helios, can you get them?
This one you can still pre-order.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So as of recording, you can still pre-order these, which I have. $775. Yeah. Thank you, Jason at Helios, for making sure I get one. $775 USD, so way under budget.
Yep, so it's about $1,200 these days.
Yeah. Really cool, really beautiful designs. I mean, I own a Helios Seaforth, one of the bronze boys, and I've had that for like a year now.
You used to wear it a lot. Like you've got a bunch of fancy schmancy watches, and I see you with the bronze guy a fair bit.
I love it. It's just character. Just watching the character develop over time is really cool.
Like with you.
Yeah, exactly. Maturing.
Yeah.
Like a fine wine. But what I was really impressed with Helios was just the package that you get for the money. For like $1,200 when it's when it lands, there's a really nice case, spare straps. You obviously get the bracelet.
And it's a good rubber strap. The one, it's a quality rubber strap. So I mean, and this is the bracelet's new. I don't think they've done any. Is this the first bracelet?
I think this. Correct.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. Helios just really outclasses a lot of other sort of players in the space, and
plus you get that hype. You get a little bit of hype with it as well.
Yeah, and Jason's been making Helios watches for like 8 or 9 or 10.
Longer. 2009, I think.
That's impressive.
For a little boy.
Yeah. Good on him. So that's
a great pick.
Yeah, 39 millimeters, 200 meter water resistance.
Is there can you go funky with the dials on this one, or is it pretty?
I think there's a grey as well that you can get.
Yeah, so pretty straight.
And a steel bezel instead of the insert. Yeah. So that's my second choice.
Solid.
Cheapy. You can pick another one of your watches if you wanted to go down the path of buying a few.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you could potentially get 2 of your 3 suggestions. You could,
yeah,
on this list. Yeah.
You might even be able to get all 3.
Maybe.
What have I done? This is completely accidental. All right, I hope you're sitting down, Felix and listeners, and I can see that you're sitting down, but I've got a Seiko.
Nice.
I know.
Yeah, this is a great watch.
SPB149JI, the Prospex LE.
Let's paint a picture for those that aren't familiar with SPBs.
Navy sort of sunray dial with a black bezel, a little bit of yellow font on the dial, and a yellow seconds hands.
Yeah. Funky, blocky markers there.
Yeah, chunky blockers, different hands to the other Prospex. I think they have more of the swordy hands. This is sort of more blocky.
This is like not their hardcore vintage re-edition. This is the modern reinterpretation of one of their old ones.
This is like the follow-up, which I think some of the purists might be have a little bit of issue with the hands, especially because it's traditionally had those more arrow sort of hands.
Yeah,
and this has the blocky guys. This is a limited edition of 5,500, so you'll probably get one.
Yeah.
The Australian price is $19.95.
Is this what James Stacey bought, or is this the more recent version?
I think this is the more recent version.
Yeah. Okay. So he got okay.
We'll have to check.
But same vibe.
Very cool. 40.5 millimeters. So look, it's a little bit over the size, but I think he can rock it. Going to be out in June of 2020. So now it should be available. That's my 3. What do you think?
That's a really, really solid selection. And I think that Seiko's really of all the sort of Seiko are getting a lot more in tune, I think, with different sensibilities. This has got, it's pretty conventional shape. It looks like a classic dive watch, which it is, but it's, still got that really, really strong value proposition. The Longines, I'll talk about that in a second.
The yellow and blue on the Seiko is it's pops.
Yeah. And honestly, I think you look at that Seiko next to that Helios, and they're very similar watches.
Yeah, they are a little bit.
You're like, I don't think that's a bad thing. So I mean, you've clearly gone with a classic dive style. I mean, we'll get to that. We'll come to what I would pick out of there. We'll do that at the end. But they're really all really interesting pieces.
Marcus could actually get all three, I reckon, with a bit of hard negotiating,
bit of some end of financial year discounting or something. Cool. Well, do you want to see what I've come up with?
I would love to see what you've come up with.
Guess what I've come up with my first watch.
It looks like a white dial 40mm watch.
Yeah, it's a Longines Spirit.
Oh,
you
wow.
might be familiar with it from a watch that you picked this
Moments ago.
Yeah, this was one we sort of talked about it before, and you were like, yeah, I'm going to go the Longines. I'm like, funny you should mention that. I've got exactly the same thing, pretty much, except for me, like you said, this is a great watch, and I saw them the other day, and I was really, really impressed by them. It's a strong move, I think, for Longines that have got well-regarded heritage pieces, but this is not a heritage piece. So it's a modern sport watch. It's quite modern in its construction, and it feels like a new watch. It feels like a popular
Feels solid. Does it?
Yeah,
they feel well
I'd
made?
put it up against like the Tudors. I'd put it up against the Tag Heuer Octavias. I'd put it up against some of those Seikos. It's the same sort of vibe. It feels substantial, but it's got that retro feel. But I went with the white dial. Again, the 40mm, because I like the dial proportion and design, I think is cleaner. But the white dial really shows off the texture. Like it's a lot of graining. There's you can't really see in the sort of the stock shots, but the Arabics are sort of quite higher blocks that are very loom filled. So it's got a real three-dimensionality to the dial that's really impressive. And I think, especially for the price, it's great.
So you're doing it on the leather strap, or you? Yeah,
I mean, whatever.
Either or.
Like I think I'd buy a bracelet and get some other sort of leather
Swap
straps
her out.
after. It's 20mm, so it'll look good on a whole lot of stuff.
So what's with the 5 stars on the dial?
So obviously it got a good review.
5 out of 5. Yeah.
No,
That's
this
the Amazon rating.
It's something they used to do on, I think, either their Conquests or their Admirals, and it was sort of just like back at like a 60s marker of like, this is a very good movement.
Cool.
So it's a historical thing, and I think it adds balance. They copped a bit of flack, I think, for that 5-star review. But it fits within the Longines history, and the movement's pretty good. Silicon balance, 64 hours of power, COSC certified, which is sort of a bit of a newer thing for Longines. So solid.
Yeah, and it's obviously in-house.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the
beauties.
And I think that's Longines' greatest asset is that they're part of the Swatch Group and they operate at a certain price point, which makes it really, really compelling.
Okay, and your next one is also part of the Swatch Group.
Yeah, so the Mido, the Mido Ocean Star Tribute. Which,
very cool.
You can go a few ways with this. There's a black one. I've gone the sort of the heritage-y looking one.
Yep.
So it's got that sort of vaguely mid-century, funky 60s feel. There's other more modern looking ones with different, that look like just a regular diver. So I don't know what Marcus is into, but something to...
I reviewed the black one last year, went hands-on.
Oh, you did too?
Yeah, it's a great watch for the money.
Yep, and it's sort of, for me, it comes up against like, the Baltic that we seem to talk about all the time and Doxa, the sub 200. I'd sort of give it the nose on the Doxa, but up against the Baltic, it's a different beast. It's a bit bigger, but again, you get that Swatch Group power. So you get that 80 hours power reserve movement. You get a really good sort of case construction, fit and finish for $1,600. Did I mention that?
Yeah, $1,600, and you've gone the navy blue guy.
Yeah, navy blue. The black's pretty classic. The blue's a bit more interesting. The one thing I would probably change is the bracelet. So it's got that sort of, not a bead of rice, like whatever, a 5-link.
Yeah.
And that's pretty stock. I don't think it tapers. That it's a bit of a chunky boy, but
yeah, it doesn't. Date as well.
Yeah, data. I just think it's a really cool watch, and I think Mido's underappreciated. It's really solid.
All right. I've skipped ahead to your last one. What is this beast?
I've gone weird.
Yeah.
I've gone weird, and I've got a bit over budget. And I've gone oversized, so I don't know what I'm doing.
What am I looking at?
This is my odd flex choice. The Girard-Perregaux Seahawk 2.
What happened to the first one?
Well, the Seahawk's one of their old lines, so there's,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a sporty one. But this, for people that can't think back to the mid 2000s and the early 2000s of Gerard Perregaux's previous iteration, the Seahawk kind of looks like a P01, the Tudor P01.
Okay.
It's got this particular one, and again, there's heaps of versions. You can go, it's a big family. It is allegedly 44.8 mil, but it's so it's big, but it's kind of, I think it kind of works.
So the date is at
Date is at 1:30 between 1 and 2, obviously.
Yeah.
Which I kind of think if you're going to put a date on a watch that doesn't really fit on there, just go somewhere weird.
put it at 1:30.
Yeah.
That is, I don't think I've ever seen a date wheel in that
Yeah,
position.
it's got a power reserve sort of between 5 and 6 o'clock. But the main thing is it's got that big sort of P01 sort of big Seiko case with like big flanges around the crown at 4. Steel bezel, big sort of vaguely vintage hands, but it's got that mid.
They look like weapons. Those hands look like weapons. Like you'd pull them off.
It's a fun watch. And the reason I went for it is because on Chrono 24 they're not super expensive.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're in budget. I think this one was about $4,000.
That's in budget. That's not over.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's necessarily the best example. Like, if you want like the one with gold and the box and papers, you may be pushing it, but I like it because it's a weird choice. They don't get enough love. I think they're great quality watches. Like GP is still a serious house, like in-house movement.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's just a bit of a weirdie. And I felt we needed to, we've got all these super straight divers and, sort of vaguely aviation inspired pieces.
It's such an odd choice.
What do you reckon?
It does look very sort of P01 with that sort of crown.
You could have fun with that.
Yeah, you could put it on a NATO strap.
Like he's got his other bases covered.
Yeah, he does. That watch would look really good beaten up.
That's what I'm thinking. That's Mr. Enthusiast stuff. Yeah. That's what it's got those sort of that Ara Explorer style dial configuration on this one as well. So,
it's not a hideous looking watch either.
It's just a bit odd.
It's just an odd watch.
And for me, it's like the sensibilities in 2005 or whenever this one came out were different to now. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's recap. So, Longines Spirit, black dial from me, Halios Fairwind with the navy dial and bezel, and a Seiko Prospex LE with a navy dial and black bezel. Now I'm looking at yours. You've gone the Spirit with the white dial,
40 mil.
The Mido that looks, vaguely like the
That's weird.
the other two watches that I chose.
Yeah, we've gone
a lot of navy
classic divers.
and
yeah, okay.
and this weird Gerard Perregaux Seahawk duo. Navy's coming through. Half the watches have navy, and two out of 6 the same.
I just want to go back to what he said. So, what is he looking for?
Let's read.
Okay, he's all over the shop.
He's all
Nobos
over.
Club Campos, Unimatic, Vintage Grand Seiko Rider. It's anyone's game.
It is. I think that Longines could be the front runner here.
Yeah, it's new, it's cool, it's very
exciting.
versatile.
Very.
For you, though, out of yours, I mean, Longines or the Seiko? I think that they really are. We've got a really similar bunch, but actually, no, out of yours, because I don't like the black dial Spirit as much as the white dial, so I'm going to go the Seiko.
Okay, all right. It's hard to pick, but I'll
the Seahawk, are you?
No, definitely not the Seahawk. I'll go the Spirit white dial.
Cool. It's a great watch. I'm legitimately into that watch.
He's all over the shop though, because he could get all
get 2
to 3 to 4 of these watches.
Get the Seiko and the Spirit.
Yeah. Even the Mido is such it depends on what he's wanting to do with his money. If he's wanting to have a great watch and not spend a lot of money.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, whereas if you want to have a bit of variety and add to the collection, or you could just go cheap and pay off the credit card.
I think the only way he'll go wrong is with the GP. That's the only wrong move, because who knows? Like if he buys that
Marcus,
for $4,000.
When you listen to this, please fall deeply and passionately in love with the GP so that I can It's odd. It's you gotta
He'll
have
spend
an
another
outlier.
he'll spend another $4,000 servicing that beast.
Nah, I mean it's not that fancy a movement. It's pretty
Make a nice paperweight though.
savage. I think we should leave it there before it comes to blows.
Yeah. I pull those hands off that GP and poke an eye out.
Just throw it at someone and do some damage. It's been an odd and wonderful episode. Thanks to some Cartiers on the table, and
I guess we'll have to give those back.
Yeah,
let's go do that.
Yeah, they know where we live. And thanks to Major Tom for
as always
putting this together. And thanks to you.
Thank you, Felix. And look, if you want to get your watch match made, heaven maker,
or just throw crap at me about GP Seahawks,
send Felix on Wild Goose Chases. It's otthepodcast@gmail.com. And hit us up on our socials.
You could troll me online, ot.podcast on Instagram.
Yeah, and don't forget to, like, comment, share, subscribe, review, follow.
The review here, I'll give you an idea of review. I really love OT, the podcast. They're doing an excellent job shining a light on great watches like the GPC.
Yeah. Make sure you head to iTunes and leave us a 5 Spirit Longines review on the show. We'll catch you guys next time.
Zing. See you later.